Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the changes in Major League Baseball over the last couple of years. And first, I'm going to mention myself and just a little bit of why I'm so fascinated by baseball. First of all, I've been a Yankees fan most of my life. I know that's not really a popular option here. But I've really watched baseball. I'm very passionate about it. Got me to play baseball. I've played pretty much since I was 3 years old. From my freshman year, I started umpiring baseball. And that really changed my perspective on the game because umpiring baseball and playing baseball are two very different things. And you gain a lot of respect for umpires and general officials when you get to be one and you're the one getting yelled at. And I'm also the bat boy for the Grand Prairie Airhawks this past summer, and that was another event that kind of changed my perspective on the game. I got to meet with a lot of professional players, professional umpires that have gone through minor leagues, that have gone even spring training, and maybe they didn't make it or they only played for a little bit and were now playing for the Airhawks. And so that was a really big experience that I had that really changed my outlook on the game. And finally, I'm also a fantasy baseball owner. My team went 19-2 last year, not to brag. And so a little bit of my philosophy about baseball, I'm a modern baseball traditionalist. And that's a term that I made up, and it basically goes to baseball with the 1994 season, which was also the year that I was born. I was born in October, and as many people know, there was not a World Series in October of 1994. But so it's kind of ironic that I love baseball. But they're one wildcard team, not two like they had last year. 30 teams with 16 in the NL and 14 in the AL, or make 32 teams. I'm not really too strict on that. And I believe strongly that human error is part of the game, and that's partially because I'm an umpire. Okay, so a little bit of history behind the wild card, which is my presentation today, talking about the MLB playoffs. It started in 1994. What happened was they expanded to add the Colorado Rockies and also the Miami Marlins, now formerly known as the Florida Marlins. And they had to expand from the normal 2 divisions into 3 divisions. So you have your West, your East, and your Central. And what happened was, with the 3 division winners, they would need a wild card spot so they wouldn't have a bye week in the first round of the playoffs. And that's how you get your divisional series round, where you have a best 3 of 5 to decide who goes on to the championship round. And it was good because it added more teams into the playoffs, and also it was just more fun to watch. But around 2010, a lot of questions were raised about the competitiveness about baseball, because a lot of teams that would get an early playoff spot in, say, like late August or September would just kind of slack off towards the end because they knew they were in the playoffs, and their pitchers would rest and starters would rest. And the commissioner wanted baseball to be a little bit more competitive in September because it's the drive for October. You want all the division races to be decided and all the wild card spots. And the big question was, there was no really benefit to winning your division over the wild card other than home field advantage. And while home field advantage is nice, a lot of wild card teams were still able to make it to the World Series. In fact, from 2002 to 2007, at least one wild card team was making the World Series. 2002, 2 wild card teams. So it was really a big question of how can you get it so that the division is more important than winning the wild card. And so the new rule came into effect last season where they had 2 wild cards instead of just the 1 wild card. And how that worked was that the 2 wild cards would play each other in a 1-game playoff, and then the winner of that wild card would move on to the divisional round. Now, last year, as maybe you might remember, Texas kind of collapsed towards the end of the season and got swept by the Oakland A's in the final series, and they ended up going to the 1-game wild card where they lost to the Baltimore Orioles. And St. Louis, on the other hand, finished 6 games behind the Atlanta Braves, and they played the Atlanta Braves in the first round in that wild card game, and they, on a very questionable infield fly rule, were able to win and pull it off and go all the way to the championship series. And so that was a lot of controversy last year on whether or not this worked. And a few of my personal issues with this is that, one is that it's supposed to make September more exciting. And I think that's what a lot of baseball fans like. And I haven't been around for that long, but I don't remember a Major League Baseball season that has September as exciting as the final day of the 2011 season. And what happened on that day was that you had an AL East race, AL East showdown between the Yankees and the Rays, and you also had another AL East showdown between the Red Sox and the Orioles. Red Sox had struggled since August. They were virtually guaranteed to make the playoffs, but it came down to the very final game of the season. And what happened was the Red Sox went on, had an hour-and-a-half rain delay before losing to the Orioles 4-3 on 2 runs being scored in the bottom of the 9th inning. And that was about 5 minutes before the Rays came back, being down 7-0 against the Yankees. They scored 6 runs in the 8th inning, had a solo home run in the 9th inning, and beat the Yankees with a solo home run in the bottom of the 12th inning. And I think that was a very exciting finish to the 2011 season. But had the 2 wildcard system been in place, that wouldn't have happened. There was also a lot of controversy in the NL that year with the Braves and Cardinals, ironically. The Braves dropped out of the postseason late, and the Cardinals beat the Astros 8-0, and the Braves lost to the Phillies in 13 innings. Another question that has to be raised about this new playoff system is that playoffs should be in a series, because from day 1 of the Major League Baseball season all the way to the end, you're playing series against other teams, so usually 3 or 4 games. Then you get to the playoffs, you have the divisional round. That's also best 3 out of 5. You have the championship round, best 4 or 7. And you have the World Series, which is best 4 or 7. But now we have this 1-game wild card where all 162 games of the regular season rely on that 1 game. And anything, as shown by the Cardinals-Braves game last year, can happen in 1 game, especially with an infield fly rule. And the third question is, are the second teams really good enough to be playing the first wildcard teams? And the 10 years before that this rule is in effect, the National League, 7 out of the 10 teams were within 3 games back of the first wildcard team. So I think that's fairly competitive, and most of those teams finished with more than 90 wins. However, in the AL, only 3 out of the 10 years were those teams within 3 games of the wild card. So do you want another situation where a team could be 7 or 8 games back in the wild card, but still make the playoffs, and then defeat a team who has a much better record, even though in 1 game, when anything could really happen? So in conclusion, I think that there's a couple options that Major League Baseball could take here. One, they could expand to 32 teams, redo their playoff format, have it like the NFL maybe. They could do it where they go back to the 2-division system, and they have the winners of the divisions and then have 4 wild card spots. There are multiple ways of doing it that seem to make sense, are fair, and they play in series. Or you can go back to 2011 when they had a playoff system that was already fair. It had a series, and I think that it was a really great year. However, even if they choose not to take my suggestion and change their playoff system, I'm still going to continue to be a Major League Baseball fan, as I have been since I was 2 years old. So, thank you.